Good morning everyone. Tara basa tayo na ating history book, History of the Filipino People by Agoncillo and Guerrero. Kapwa ko Pilipino, magbasa na tayo ng ating history. 31 March, History of the Filipino People by Agoncillo and Guerrero. Today is 31 March 2023, History of the Filipino People, Part 6, The Third Republic. Nandito na tayo sa topic number 29. 29. The cultural and social scene. The almost half a century of the Americans in the Philippines was not ended with political independence in 1946. On the contrary, many features of colonialism remain today. For one thing, education is predominantly American. English remains the language of instruction except in the first grades of the primary level in some provinces. Both in concept and technique, the educational system follows that of the United States. The result is confusion in the language situation on the one hand and continuance of Philippine literature in English on the other. Social changes to follow the pre-American and American colonial pattern in which there is an unequal distribution of wealth. This condition has resulted in social upheavals and in the multiplication of grave social problems. Ulitin ko ha. This condition has resulted in social upheavals and in the multiplication of grave social problems. Education. The Philippines has an educational system that is patterned after the American tradition of education, at first primarily conditioned to the basic concepts of American democracy. The educational system emphasized Americanism rather than Philippinism. The change of status from colony to Commonwealth and from Commonwealth to Republic was not so far radically changed the old educational pattern, for even today any modification in the American system is exultantly followed in the Philippines. Years later, when the modification has lost its validity in the United States, thus many years after independence, the Philippine educational system is still American-oriented, resulting in the perpetuation of colonial mentality. This was deplored by no less than former Senate President Arturo M. Tolentino, a brilliant legal scholar and legislator who in October 1966 called on the educational leaders of the Philippines to reorient the educational system in such a way as to imbue the Filipino youth with a real sense of independence. He also urged that English be discontinued as a medium of instruction because it is inconsistent with the independent status of the Philippines. The continued use of English as a medium of instruction, he said, has created subconscious feeling that whatever comes from the United States is better than what we create in the Philippines. Concluding his speech, he said that there was and is a necessity for freeing the mind of the youth from colonial mentality. The changes wrought since the Commonwealth era have been those concerning the teaching of the lives of Filipino national heroes, the introduction of the vernaculars in the first two grades of the primary school, the introduction of a wider concept of vocational education, and the introduction of the community schools. The effect of the first has been to awaken the interest of the students in the role played by the Filipinos in the development of Philippine polity. The second, as experiments have shown, has increased the school child's learning and self-assurance, for in using his own language, he loses the inhibitions and inferiority complex that characterizes painful study of a foreign language. The third has prepared and continues to prepare many of the non-academic type of studies for useful occupations, thereby diminishing the number of misplaced white-collar job seekers and contributing to a certain extent to the economic development of the growing national community. Higher education. Appetite for higher education since the end of the last war has been whetted. The result has been increased college and university enrollment. The University of the Philippines, because of its rigid rules and regulation governing scholarship and because of its limited funds, could not accommodate the growing population of college students. This vacuum has been filled by private colleges and universities. The increase in the number of private institutions of higher learning since independence means that more and more students have been attracted to higher education in order to acquire status symbol. Such proliferation of private colleges and universities has given rise to the problem of what has been derisively called diploma mills. The cutthroat competition among private institutions has resulted in the graduation of half-baked students who could hardly write a grammatical sentence. Thus, theoretically, there has been an increase in the percentage of college graduates since the liberation. Actually, however, many of these graduates are no better than the high school graduates of the pre-war years. Kaya totoo ko niyan kasi nung araw, kahit na walang pinag-aral na marunong magaling magsalita ng syempre kung nasakop ng American tsaka ng Spanish kung ano yung salita nila matutunan mo talaga, diba? So yun, nakalagay kasi guys, actually however many of these graduates are no better than the high school graduates of the pre-war years. The problem of public and private education is serious. The public school system is, in the words of Dr. Alfredo T. Morales of the University of the Philippines, bankrupt its finances and values. On the other hand, the private institutions, with few exceptions, are bankrupt in values, do not in finances. On the higher level, many private schools and colleges are run for profit, and since profit motive predominates over serious education, faculty members are employed not because of their competence. Some, however, are very competent, but because of the low salaries they are willing to accept to keep body and soul together. Those low salaries mean more profits for the colleges, but less learning for the students, who in many cases are usually only 30 minutes behind their mentors. The net result of such a system has been the increase in the number of unemployed graduates, which in turn had led to grave social problems. The community schools. One of the significant changes in the educational field was the introduction of the concept of community schools. In 1948, some enterprising and resourceful superintendents of public schools started experimenting with the community schools. The division superintendents of Bataan, Bulacan, Cebu, Cagayan, Iloilo, and Pampanga began to apply more thoroughly than it had been attempted before this concept of education, by which the activities of the schools are integrated into those of the community. In 1950, the Convention of Public School Superintendents adopted a program of community development through the schools. The community school concept is primarily geared to the improvement of the social, economic, and health conditions of the rural areas. These schools use actual situations and problems in the community as subjects of study. The community in turn receives help from the schools in the form of instruction in agriculture, health and sanitation, literacy, and home industries. No set formulas are followed in all the school division. The methods and approach to the problems of the community depend on the conditions of its locality. 3 approaches have been evolved: the so-called Bataan approach, the Iloilo approach, and the Laguna approach. Each of these is named after the province where the method is employed. The Bataan approach emphasizes the establishment of village nurseries where seedlings are distributed at nominal cost to the farmers and other interested persons. The women of the province are taught cooking, sewing, and weaving by home economics teachers. In Iloilo, the schools teach the farmers more production and scientific methods of farming, crop rotation, the use of fertilizers, poultry raising, gardening, and pig raising are taught to the adults by their own school children. In Laguna and Bulacan, the adults are taught the methods and techniques of grafting, raising hogs and ducks breeding, feeding, and disease control. The improvement of the living conditions in the community is the common objective of all these techniques. The Philippine Community School movement has begun to attract international attention. It was the object of considerable interest during the first United Nations Conference on Community Development for South and Southeast Asia held in Manila from November 29 to December 10, 1954. The main results of this conference were that the members, number 1, outlined the essential elements of a concrete plan for community development. Number 2, exchanged information on the policy, structure, successes, and failures of their own programs. And number 3, suggested methods for increasing regional cooperation and achieving better utilization of the services of the international organization to promote community development. Bukas na itong the language situation, guys. For 01 April. Kita mo, ang bilis ng buwan, no? April na agad. Bye everyone. God bless.